Hey, good evening. What is up? This is the Leafs Convo for Oak Ridge Ford in London, Ontario, oakridgeford.com. It is Wednesday, March 13th, 2024. Of course, the broadcast brought to you by your friends at Oak Ridge Ford, a phenomenal dealership in London, Ontario, southwestern Ontario, a geographical epicenter for car sales, whether used or new, F-150, SUV, internal combustion engine, electric. I'm your man at the center of it all, at Norman Oak Ridge Ford on Instagram. If you're looking for your next vehicle, I'm your guy. You know me from this content, night in, night out, week in, week out, year in, year out. I am your guy. Why not reach out to me? It's a global marketplace. There's my spiel, and I'm sticking to it. Mr. Augello, a little sneak show for Wednesday, and why the hell not? Bobby McMann signed to a 2-year contract extension, at least to this point of the season and this point of his career. Well-deserved money and potentially more when he does more. And then, of course, Mitch Marner, a lower body injury is all the Leafs are telling us about him right now, skating but not practicing. The interesting thing is the Leafs take a 7-3 record in their last 10 into a game with Philadelphia tomorrow. And while it seems like things are on track, like there's the loss to Boston, going deep with the Habs, and the power play, once mighty, starting to cool off. Mitch Marner won't be a part of it tomorrow against the Flyers. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Norm. We'll start with the McMann contract. I think it's something that had to be done, that needed to be done, and needed to be done before the end of the season, simply because he has piled up a number of goals. I mean, he now has 10 after scoring in Montreal. He had 7 in 5 games when he got really hot. He's played well with talent, meaning he played really well. Didn't seem out of place playing with Tavares. He's a big body, 6'2" and 210 pounds. So, this is a team that doesn't have a ton of size.
Right.
He's 27 years old. They signed him as a college or undrafted free agent coming out of Colgate.
Right.
So this is somebody and somebody they developed. Now he's had some injury issues over the last few years, but he has not had those this year. It's not a big money deal. He got $1.35 million per year on a 2-year deal, which is the same salary as Ryan Reeves, I believe. But in this instance, somebody who's actually producing. So I think this is smart. It's a smart deal. He was, they're lucky in one respect. He was placed on waivers. He had to go through waivers earlier in the year, and he cleared. And it would have looked pretty bad on the organization to have him claimed and then do what he's doing right now. So good work by Brad Treliving getting him signed. He's in the fold, and at absolute worst, he's a bottom 6 or 4th line winger who can score the occasional goal. And $1.3 million is essentially, that's what you're going to pay for a 4th line winger who can score some goals. So I think it's a good signing.
OG's Converts, this is the Convo. Like the content, subscribe to the channel. The subs are up. We're trying to get to 4,000 by the playoffs. We're 80 away. I think we can get there. If you've been frequenting this community for a lengthy period of time, you typically love what you see. Even if you don't, but you return, hit the subscribe button. We appreciate it. You want to give us one of your coveted held to the vest subs, and we promise we won't let you down. If you are in the chat, go ahead and ask us a question or two. We'll get the omniscient Mike Augello to answer it for you. It's a really, really brief show. There's some content requirements here, and then we just wanted to re-engage with you as a bunch of games are coming up. And of course, the Sunday Spectacular will be a few days away. We're always looking forward to that. So Bobby McMann, born in '96, is an Ivy Leaguer. Wichita, the Marlies, Newfoundland, with the Leafs last season for 10 games, and now 10 goals in 40 games, 18 points. Mike, anybody can come in, score 10 goals, and then quiet down, or score 10 goals, set the world on fire, relatively speaking, have a bunch of people get interested, and then, he just falls off. What is it about Bobby McMann that's giving us an indication that, aside from the 10 goals, but there's a real player here.
Well, I mean, he's shown ability to score goals at the AHL level. I mean, when he scored 21 goals in 30 games, which he did last year, and that was an injury-plagued year, and he got an NHL crack. And then there was something there, but I think that he has proved himself in the NHL after getting recalled. Remember, once he got recalled, he was pretty much playing fourth line and then in and out of the lineup. It was only when the Leafs had some injuries and he had that hat trick, and then they gave him more of an opportunity, and he really played well when he got more of an opportunity. And he went 4 or 5 games without scoring a goal, but then he scored it on Saturday in Montreal. I mean, you're not going to get 40 goals out of the guy, but if you get 15.
Right.
That's what they're looking for. But more than anything, he's got good speed. He's a good skater.
Right.
He's got size, and which is a lot. This team doesn't have a lot of.
Right.
So it was just a smart move by Brad Treliving, and Brad Treliving likes big players. So he plays a big game. So it was a smart signing.
Yeah, 21 goals with the Marlies last season at a point where it was kind of piss or get off the pot. He took his piss, and now, he is the guy in the NHL with a 2-year contract extension. A 27-year-old undrafted. It's hard not to root for that cat. Never mind someone who just comes in and goes sporadically, shows his worth, and then just falls off. He's been super consistent. And you know what? Maybe he's got 6-7 years in him. Clearly, not an opportunity to make a Hall of Fame career out of it. But hey, it's taken him a long period of time. Now he's here, and he does not look out of place. Wilfred Witzke, what will the lines look like in Philly?
Well, with the injury to Marner, and Marner is apparently did not go to Philadelphia, or they already announced that he's not going to play.
Right.
I'm assuming that the lines will be the same as they were against Montreal, which means Nylander playing with Bertuzzi and Matthews on the first line, and they had moved Domi to the wing and moved Kampf up to third line center, playing Connor Dewar, the newly acquired Connor Dewar, on the fourth line. So I'm assuming they're going to go with the same line combinations they used against the Habs. They obviously are missing. They got 3 goals against Montreal. Montreal is a bad team, and we know Montreal always works themselves up into a lather when they play the Leafs. But the Leafs almost lost that game. It was 2-2 in the third period when Tavares scored the game-winning goal. So the concern here is generating offensive chances, 5-5 with Matthews, who slumped a little bit of late, and on the power play. And you mentioned earlier the power play hasn't been going great guns lately. They need to get the power play going, but the power play and Marner are synonymous, because Marner is he's not a shot taker, but he is a play driver in terms of setting up the snipers like Nylander, Tavares, or Matthews on the power play. So they have to get through however long it is that Marner's not in the lineup.
Right, 3 for 18 in their last 8 games, and I'm getting that out of a Toronto Star article from your buddy Kevin McMann. Mike, is your sense that they're just taking precaution with Marner and letting him kind of get back into the mix at his own pace, all things considered?
Well, yes, I think that's the case. I mean, like I said, he skated at the Ford Performance Center today. But it wasn't practice. It was just getting on the ice.
Right.
They're going to take it slow because, look at the standings, folks. They're 9 points behind Boston for second place, and they're 8 points ahead of Tampa Bay for the wild card. They're in third. They're not going anywhere. It's sort of like where they are and where they have been the last few years. They've sort of had the last month of the season where the games are meaningless other than staying healthy. So in that instance, it's not going to kill you to not have Marner in the lineup for a game or two and make sure that he's completely 100% healthy going into the stretch run.
Well, for those who would like to see Marner traded for a bag of pucks because they don't like him, if he were not to return to this team this season, if you think the Leafs' chances of doing anything substantial are, pretty slim right now without Mitch Marner, you can friggin' forget about it,
Well, I mean, and okay, I'll preface this by saying I don't know the source of the rumor, but it wasn't Hockey Buzz, and it wasn't any of the established media sources that we normally would hear rumors from. But there was a ridiculous rumor that popped up in the last day or two of Marner being traded to Pittsburgh for Sidney Crosby, because Crosby supposedly, there's a lot of chatter now about Pittsburgh going into a rebuild and maybe Crosby doesn't want to stay around. I'm telling you right now, folks. I mean, is it 100% guaranteed that Mitch Marner is not being traded? No, nothing is guaranteed. But I will tell you this. I cannot imagine Sidney Crosby wanting to be traded from Pittsburgh. And I can't imagine Brad Treliving trading a 26-year-old Mitch Marner for a 36-year-old Sidney Crosby. So it's asinine. It's not happening.
So are we dating this back to before the deadline?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't a rumor of a deal happening before the deadline. It was a rumor of something happening over the summer, because Crosby now knows, after they traded Jake Gensel, that Pittsburgh is in a rebuild. But
yeah, and Toronto's where Toronto's
one of the last places. I mean, if you talk about he was a fan of the Montreal Canadiens.
Right.
There's always been the rumor that if he wanted to finish his career someplace other than Pittsburgh, it would be in Montreal.
Right. If he wants to take a one final victory lap with a series of losses, then he should go. He should go play for the Habs. Again, it's Willie and Matty are the guys who are going to supply the offense for this team all the way to a Stanley Cup without Mitch Marner. It's just it's ridiculous. But I brought it up. We'll see how the team can function without him. At least for the rest of the season, we have a détente, all hands on deck. Everybody's required in the off season if they choose to change things up, save some money, allocate assets in the way they believe is beneficial to the team. As I've said over and over again, I am not down with any particular players. I'm down with the crest, and that's just me. Spike 11. Would you put Benoit in the lineup instead of Liljegren in the playoffs?
No. I mean, the whole reason that they are putting Edmondson with Liljegren right now is to see if they can have an effective, maybe bottom pairing in the playoffs. And then by bottom pairing, I'm not saying they're going to play bottom pairing minutes like 12 or 13, right. Probably more than that. They're going to want, and they might play second pairing. I mean, maybe it's we know it's going to be Riley and Lyubushkin. It's probably going to be McCabe and Brody, and then your third pairing is likely going to be Edmondson and either Benoit or Giordano or Liljegren. Right. I think it's got to be Liljegren, because I think, especially after the suspension to Morgan Riley, Liljegren played wonderfully for about 2 weeks, and then he's not played as great as he was. He was given responsibility and he played well with it. So I think that they need to go with him, and he's somebody. This team does not have right-hand shot defensemen. They need to keep Liljegren, but I mean, he's not big. And, Benoit is going nowhere. He's done a really nice job filling in. But if you're talking about in the playoffs, you're talking about a guy who's drafted in the first round, right, and who has played in the playoffs before, and Benoit is neither. So
but either of these guys could draw in depending on the circumstances the Leafs face.
Sure. In
that particular game. I mean, Liljegren's got more skill, but Benoit would strike some fear in the opponent's heart and in their psyche. He's a tough guy, whereas Liljegren still leaves a lot to be desired with his play, but he has flashes, and you just never know. Some confidence gets him going. It's nice to have the options. Collectively, the Leafs defense isn't bothering anybody in terms of their game plan and how they're going to handle it. Right. Regardless of who you have in the lineup, it's just players who are going to emerge and who are going to rise to the occasion, whether they're expected to or not. And that's what remains to be seen. And that's the beauty of the playoffs, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, the post-deadline analysis of the Leafs blue line is they're deeper. And there's nothing that they could have done to address this, but they really, at the deadline, they added another couple more experienced 5s and 6s with Lyubushkin and Edmondson.
Right.
The problem, and I think I made this analogy before, Morgan Rielly is a great number 2. He's an okay number 1.
Right.
Then you don't have two-thirds of the remaining top 4, at least, that are Stanley Cup quality. You've got guys who are playing in the top 4, but are they legitimate top 4 defensemen on the level of like who the Rangers or the Bruins or the Panthers or the Golden Knights have? No. And that's the fatal flaw with this team. Now, are they going to be able to address that in the next few years? Well, we'll see, but they're going to have to, because they're not going to win without that.
Handshake line respect, or HLR. You can replace Marner, but you cannot replace Matthews. No one suggested that anyone can replace Matthews. He's a generational player, the best scorer there is in today's game. But Mitch Marner is an offense driver, right? I mean, sure, who are you going to replace him with? Like, how many guys are available to replace him? I mean, forget about your feelings towards the guy. And we've already litigated his playoff performance. He was not great against Florida last spring. Not many of the members of the team were. But in terms of Marner's, I guess, overall productivity in the postseason, more points than he's played games. So the stats might be lying, but that's it's a damn good stat to have in your favor. Mike, any comments on that? We'll do a few more questions and get out of here.
Yeah, remember this. Marner is a playmaker playing on the wing, and that fits like hand to glove with Matthews, who's more of a shooting center. Right. So you need, now the thing is, you could say, well, Marner, Matthews and Nylander have played together a long time, and they have, but one's a sniper and the other one's a sniper. It's beneficial to this team to have them on separate lines. And if you're putting all your eggs in one basket, if you say all of a sudden, Marner gets traded someplace or Marner is not in the lineup, then you've got 2 shooters on that line, and you don't want, there's only one puck. So that's why, Marner is a very good fit with Matthews. And I think, if all of a sudden they traded Marner, they would need a playmaking winger to fit with Matthews. And there are not many really excellent playmaking wingers in the league.
This from StatMuse, statmuse.com.
Mm-hmm.
With Mitch Marner at his side, Austin Matthews has 336 goals, 252 assists, plus minus of plus 134 in 515 games. Again, take it for what it is, statmuse.com. Matthews has 353 goals in his career. So, there's a public relations issue with Mitch Marner. He has not looked good in parts of the playoffs that he's competed in. The guy that we usually weigh him out against is having the best year of his career. So there's a lot of things that are going against number 16 right now. The remedy that will cure these ongoing ailments with his image is a phenomenal playoff. Mm-hmm. Somebody who looks not out of place, but who's taking the game to the opposition, plays a little tougher, plays a little bigger. Maybe with some of the guys, punching above their weight now, Marner can do that. So can Nylander, so can Matthews, and these guys can have a great playoff run together, and then we can assess who they are as players and how we feel they fit into the big picture of contendership going forward. But for now, it's hopefully all hands on deck. Let's see if there's a couple more questions here. Stanley, trade Robertson and Liljegren for Krause in the off season. Wilfred Witzke, how many points will Matthews get? Do you see anything here, Mike?
There's one further back that I wanted to answer. Steve James had asked about Cade Weber, the defenseman that the Leafs had traded for from Carolina. Now he's He was a low round pick of the Hurricanes, I believe, in 2019. He's played 4 years at Boston University, excellent school, and he is a senior, so they're gonna have to get him signed before August the 15th. He is 6'7",
right?
209, 210 pounds. So he's a beanpole, but he's a shot blocker. I've heard differing reports about whether, there's some who say that he's a good skater, and, bigger defensemen, all they have to do is have large strides. And so, I mean, he could be somebody who's an AHL player. He could be somebody that could fit in. He's offensively, he's a zero. I mean, he's just he's not an offensive defenseman, but they have enough of those. If you have a big guy who has a giant wingspan, who can skate, and he's 23 years old right now, so he probably signs an NHL deal. If he has NHL aspirations, he probably makes it within the next year or two. We'll see. I mean, it's a project. It was a 6th round pick that they gave up, so it's a risk worth taking.
Right. Just real quick, our buddy, handshake respect, or whatever it is again, handshake line respect. So the point is, Marner's phenomenal in the regular season. His game is geared more towards a regular season style. As the playoffs get tighter, he loses the room that he usually has to be creative and effective, and he suffocates. Exactly. And it's up to him as a player and, his team as a support system to finally make that adjustment. Right. It's like, well, you've only been able to get to the conference finals for 5 years in a row. What do you need to do to get cross that threshold into a place where you can actually hoist the title? For the Leafs, you got to dial it back. Sure, you can do really well in the regular season, but once it's crunch time and the game changes, how can you adapt? So handshake line respect, you're right on the money with that. And Marner typifies the team in general, right? That the whole group has to figure out a way. You can't have Nylander endear himself to the world by going Lone Ranger in a playoff series and nobody else with him. It's good for his agenda. It's good for his fans, and the Nylanderites, but it doesn't work out for the team. And if it's a flip side where Nylander has a shitty playoff and it's Marner and Matthews, but the team doesn't, execute to the point where collectively they can win, it doesn't mean anything, So as a group, it would be nice to see these guys adjust, and they're going to have to. Or what? The rep is justified. You're a regular season dynamo. In the playoffs, when it really counts, you have not been able to come through. And for this team in general, Austin Matthews included, that is the knock against it. Mike, what else do you want to hit on before we get out of here?
Just they play Philadelphia and then they play Carolina on Saturday. Philadelphia is without Tortorella after he got suspended for 2 games. But they're in the midst of a playoff race, so that's going to be a tough game, and it's always tough to play in Philly. The game on Saturday, I'll just I'll be my hockey version of Mr. Blackwell. The jersey that's behind you, this Toronto St. Pat's jersey, I like that one. The new jersey that they put out, a lot of people seem to like it. I think it looks. I'm not. It's not a winner for me. It's a big clover.
Yeah, I'm looking at it.
It's not to me. It's not a. I mean, was it made up by fanatics? Because that's the quality that it looks. I mean, I started to rip on it. I mean, everybody's got an opinion, and mine is I wouldn't dish out a couple $100 to buy it.
Right now, guys, if you go to nhl.com/, so the Maple Leafs website, go to their schedule. There's a banner above the schedule, and it's all about unlocking your shamrock, Mike. And I think that's the reason why you're down on these jerseys, because you have not unlocked your shamrock. Listen, you're an Italian, and I know you and the Irish don't get along, especially in Greater Buffalo.
No, I actually get along with the Irish, and I prefer redheads. So, and most of the Irish lasses are redheaded. So, I'm all for it. I just don't like this jersey. I mean, I'll be wearing green on Sunday, but not that. That one, but
that
not
thing is slick. And with the brown shorts, the brown helmet, actually, well, we can forget those things. Mike, have you watched any spring training games? What the fuck is going on with not only just those uniforms, those bloody New Era hats? Have you watched any of it? This is Major League Baseball. It's as popular as it's ever been with Shohei Ohtani, being the biggest athlete on the planet. All eyes are on this game right now. And the uniforms are garbage, and those hats look ridiculous. They're all bubbling up on this. These are $1 million players wearing these shitty hats, like something you get at a hat store, and it fits too large, but you're going to buy it anyway and hope that you can shrink it down.
Well, New Era caps used to be great. Now, right? Yeah, they were made in Western New York, but I'm sure they've probably ferried them out to China or something like that or whatever. All I know is the jerseys are pathetic, and Fanatics, they've got the market cornered on jerseys for almost, I think, all the professional sports, and the PR hit that they've been taking over the last month or so, where you compare an older jersey to the newer one, and right, it looks like it's ironed on. You're getting jerseys of better quality from China. That's how bad it is.
Why the hell would you want to spend, I don't know, like $200 in hats for the family when you go to PNC Park when they're all of that quality, and they're New Era. So it's just super disappointing. I noticed this kind of stuff. And the thing with baseball, and I was talking about this with my wife last night. We're hockey podcast guys. Excuse us, but you style in baseball. You're supposed to look slick. Your outfit's supposed to look amazing. You have your jewels. You stand around out there. Everybody's staring at you. And these uniforms, they look absolutely ridiculous. Alex, Boston's overconfidence will work against them or cost them versus Toronto in the playoffs. Do you like? I mean, the thing is, we'd like for the Leafs to be laying in wait and ready, just excited and ready and palpable in their anticipation of pouncing finally on Boston. But the thing with Boston is it's an overconfidence that is real, but also superficial. It's kind of like, we're going to express an overconfidence, exude this way about us that will get in the Leafs' heads because they're already in their own heads too. I don't care if the Leafs or the Boston is overconfident or lacking confident or just, trying to be themselves. It's the Leafs. It's the Leafs that need to overcome, their inferiority complex with this team.
Part of the battle here is psychological. No doubt. I mean, in terms of, Boston plays a particular style. They play it very well. They're going to do that in the playoffs. Last year they lost to Florida, and there were reasons they lost to Florida because Allmark got hurt and Bergeron got hurt. If they were healthy, they probably would have beaten Florida. Now they don't have the centers that they had last year, but look at what they did in the regular season against them. They've won 7 straight against the Leafs from last year to this year. That team is living rent free in the Maple Leafs' heads, and that's what they're going to have to do. Is they're going to have to get over that mental hurdle. And show me that's all. Like, until they beat them, I won't think they'll beat them. I said that last year with Tampa, and they beat them. Okay, right. Great. But this year, this is now the psychological hurdle that they have faced over the last decade, and we'll see.
I know you are, but what am I? Quiet is kept. Kumis deception. The Bruins have choked as much as the Leafs. Last time I checked, they've 0 Stanley Cups in the Matthews era. That's the thing.
They haven't choked when they played the Leafs.
Right. How many series wins did the Leafs have over Boston in our era of Kumis deception? A big fat 0. I'd love for that to change. Yeah. And you'd think that.
Show me.
But here's the thing: when it's a loss after a loss, season after season, at some point the Leafs will get over the hump. They did that with Tampa. Right. Statistically, they should be in a good position to, break the curse or exorcise the Bruins demons that live inside their head rent free. but the Leafs have to have the confidence to go out and take it to Boston. You can't just be hoping to go up 4-1, late in Game 6, and then skate on pins and needles, and then give it all back and then lose again. Like, you have to take it to them. Now, the pushback that we saw against Boston last week, the Bertuzzi, McCabe, Domi, and these cats doing what they do, and then Ryan Reeves, not fighting anybody really, but kind of being out there. You'd think psychologically they're better suited to take at least one step forward towards, going toe to toe with this team and leaving all of the baggage behind. But I mean, we'll get to that point when we do. Last comment to you, Mike, and we'll go.
Yeah, I just look at it this way: the Leafs are 9 points behind the Bruins for second place.
Right.
They're 8 points ahead of Tampa. You've got a month until the end of the regular season. These games are pretty much meaningless. They go 500, they're going to finish in third. And this is just plan on getting ready, and staying healthy over the next month, because that's basically all you have to really look forward to when it comes to the Leafs in the next 15, 16 games.
Okay, over the next 72 hours, it's the Flyers, then it's the Hurricanes, and then we'll have a Sunday spectacular to encapsulate the week and get us ready for another week of Leafs hockey. And the weeks are coming fewer and far between when we start to pencil in the beginning of the Stanley Cup playoffs. And as Mike, you've suggested, based on just pure fact and where the Leafs sit on the kind of pecking order of things right now, it's going to be the Leafs in Boston and Akuma's deception, their chance to finally, end this run of futility against the Bruins. Like the content, subscribe to the channel. We're almost at 4,000 subs. It's a very modest goal to reach. You can help us get there. We do appreciate everything you do for us. In the meantime, hockeybuzz.com is where you can reach or read Mike's latest. You can get at me at Norman Oak Ridge Ford on Instagram. I'd like to see a few more subs from my friends in the Leafs Convo world. And if you're looking for a vehicle, even if you can't buy from me, why don't you lean on me and help me help you do the right thing, get the best price, and be treated the right way, because you absolutely deserve it. Mr. Augello, have a great night. Thanks so much for spending the time. OG's Converts, same goes to you. For Mike, I'm Norm. The Leafs Convo is out.